We'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is acceptance of minutes presented from the last meeting on January 13th.
I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right here, thank you. And then we'll go right to project status.
Hey, Rollicum Highway. So I just actually, probably about 15-20 minutes ago, talked to the roofer. He's making really good progress on the dome. Looking pretty good, working his way around the dome. It's a little bit of it's a trial and error for him. He knew that, and I think his price reflected that. It was definitely the best price of a couple that we got for that dome. He's probably the best guy for it. He's going and using a roller bender, so he's making templates and pieces, and then going to a different site and making these pieces that are oddly shaped that will actually work vertically up the top of it. So it's definitely it's taken some time for him to do what he needs to do. The work looks good. I've constructed the finial, which is the top part member stacked up kind of cap that goes on top, delivered to site to him. He's actually mounted that on top of the dome itself. Is going to incorporate that into the actual dome itself. So that's well underway. I would say he's got the lower 3 platforms done that actual dome structure sits on, and he's probably about 3/4 of the way around, working his way around that dome. So he's pretty well past 3/4 of the way done on that particular part. The spire itself has been fully restored. Powder coated brass has been cast. I think I mentioned this in the last meeting that the north, south, east, west cast iron member that goes on that spire, what Metal Magic had to do was actually create a cast and then pour the cast iron. And what he decided to do was make 2 because the time and the effort was in actually getting everything set up and cast. So he cast 2. So we've actually brought both of those down to site. That's just the north, south, east, west frame, that cast iron frame. You guys can decide where that gets stored. My knee-jerk reaction is just to put it up inside of the dome itself. What there's going to be above the bell is a 2-foot by 2-foot trimmed hatch that's removable. I talked about this with Steve and Andrew when they came up and took a look at what's happening. That's just going to be a trimmed out AZAC bead-boarded hatch that's removed. We can put those extra components for the spire up inside above the bell, and I think it makes sense to go up there. That way they'll be in there. Maybe we can make some records or notes, or we can leave them in the attic or just turn them over, however you guys want to handle that. Just wanted to be aware of those parts. So like I said, all those parts and components are down on site in the building. We brought the bell back down. Steve actually gave us a hand putting that bell back inside the building itself. We just set it back inside the building, along with our brass bushings that we got from Electrical Motor Company up here at Hamden. So that's all back down on site. I was able to get a new core for the front door. It looks like there's some sort of a panic hardware that was existing on the I'm going to call it the non-operatable side of the front door. And then the left-hand door has a lock cylinder, a full mortise lock cylinder. And I had a new core sent that was rekeyed, and had a couple more copies of that master key made that I can turn over to Steve too. That is keyed to the same master key as the whole building. So that way we don't have a random oddball. You guys have the key to the entire building except for the one that we didn't touch, and it doesn't go to anything, and no one knows what key is. So at least that now is keyed into the whole system to make it work well. Like I think we reported last time, we're taking a little bit of a break on actually continuing working on the bell here at site on Nickerson Big Shop, which works well because the roofer can get caught up making some components for us to go around the base some drip flashing, some cabs that we need to do the actual roofing work. I'm going to call it to the EPDM roof deck, the bell deck itself below. Actually, what keeps the weather out of the building entirely. So he's going to make some components for us. We're going to get some material here. So when I get my super and my laborer back to work on that, we can wrap it up here. Modular, I think, on the site in the springtime. Generally speaking, that's the status on where the project as a whole is at. When we were on site, I say we, Steve and Andrew, when we met with the insulator on site,
Yep.
a week and a half ago, something like that. One of the things that we had looked at was the handrails that were delivered to site did not appear to work or match the shop drawings. So we did a little more investigating, of course, while Steve was there with us on site measuring stuff, looking at it, trying to understand. It's very clear that it didn't match the shop drawings. Something didn't make sense. So to kind of give an update on that, I did have LMC Light Iron come up to site. The estimator, as well as one of their shop guys, came up and met me on site. We did look at it and we confirmed that one of them was not bent correctly. The top angle was incorrect, and one of them was correct. So what we've done is both of those handrails have been removed from site. The invoice was never sent from them or included in the requisition. So there's been no money committed to this particular line item as of right now. We were able to catch the error before any money was committed to it. Both rails have been removed, despite the fact that one of them was correct for the shop drawings. Because one of the things that we noticed was the shop drawings call for the handrail to be mounted to the outside of the columns and not the inside. And one of the things that Andrew had mentioned and we were talking about right now is just looking at, can we get those handrails to the inside? It might make more sense. So this is information that's still developing. This is just where that particular process is at. I basically negotiated with LMC that they own one of them. They own one of those handrails because it doesn't match the shop drawing. And so whether we change them or move them, they own it. But depending upon how we decide to change that, there might be a little bit of a cost associated with that. I don't know what that cost is yet. And I haven't had a chance to touch base with make full circle again with Steve and Andrew again. So just reporting that to everybody, generally what's happening with that. And of course, the handrails are powder coated. So once you fabricate the handrails, you powder coat them, you're committed. That's what that handrail is. When you go to cut and refabricate them, it has to be sandblasted and stripped and then worked on. So anyways, generally speaking, this doesn't affect our overall schedule. It was discussed last time in the early springtime, just as soon as we get some good weather to swing the bell tower. We have probably, I would say, 4 to 5 weeks to get this corrected and back on site so we can get it in place. It doesn't affect anything. As a general overarching, that's sort of where we're at. I worked with quality insulation. I'm still working with Andrew. And when we were there at our meeting with Steve and Andrew looking at the insulation, what was included currently within the contractor's scope for the insulator versus where we want to take the insulation. Looking at what we need to do to have a really good mile marker for insulation when we end this particular phase. Where do we want it? What do we have left available for funds? So we're still working our way through that at this particular juncture. The insulator has provided me a quote for the material, the difference to jump up to a spray foam on the exterior walls to establish a better vapor barrier than the fiberglass insulation and the blown in. And I believe just roughly the direct cost of the quote is $8,955 more. So $8,955 is the direct cost from the insulator to go with a dense pack insulation in the floor system and the exterior walls being spray foamed. That's, of course, it's a little bit loose. Yep.
Remind me again, that wasn't inclusive of over the assembly space, right? He said he didn't have that in the original quote because there was additional. So, okay, yeah.
So, my understanding is of this, when I just received this, moments before here, I can go through the bullet points, and of course, you and I, Andrew, can get into this with Steve a little bit too, understand the actual technical areas and the different spots we're looking at. But my understanding was, this is the floor area, on the main sort of building between we're gonna call it the utility second floor at this point, right? Utility second floor, and spray foaming the exterior walls versus putting the fiberglass in, was his original scope. One of the things that we're looking at is removing the existing insulation out of the assembly area in the attic. We looked at that. Just that's something beyond what he's currently looking at right now. It's sort of extra work. What I'm working on right now is obviously the insulation that we just talked about. We're talking about potentially removing everything out of the attic, extra parts and pieces, putting in some, we're gonna be putting in some, more catwalks to be able to work up there. What it would cost to do a full insulation in the attic. We talked about an R49 or R60, I can't remember what we were talking about, R49. There's also a concern about the ceiling in the assembly area, and getting that up to a point where it's structurally sound at the end of this phase. So we're sort of balancing. In the last couple of meetings we had, Andrew, that's sort of the direction we're leaning towards. The priority being we need to make sure that ceiling is structurally sound, and that the insulation that we put in place right now is not going to be removed in the future. It's a good milestone to say, okay, we've spray foam sealed vapor barrier, got a good solid insulation. We can now pause until we get the electrical, the different components in place, without having to go backwards at all. Another little minor item is that ladder, getting a hold of a ladder so you can bolt the ladder permanently, or at least semi-permanently, between the first floor up to, I don't know, the utility second floor, the mezzanine area, and the ceiling. So I'm trying to get all those costs together for you guys to look at. I've also kind of gotten our executive vice president for the company here involved with Steve, understanding the project as a whole, the scope as a whole, and looking at those costs to figure out what we have left to play with, so that we land this thing correctly within budget, and then hit all the important areas that we need to hit on the way up the door.
So you're looking at spray foam now instead of Roxel or anything like that?
Yeah. So my conversation with Mr. Burton, his understanding, the takeaway that he had was the insulation that's going to be installed at this point was going to be the cheapest, most affordable option right now. Knowing that some of those bats might have to get taken out to be able to roughen electrical, and either be removed as a whole and be, replaced with a different, better insulation when there's more funds available, or if there's a different system that's going to be thought of, or just that incorporated into a different system. So that fiberglass would be then incorporated into a different system as a whole.
Well, because we have a local guy that does spray foam insulation, that 3 generations of his family that I know of have graduated from here. So I don't know if that's something we could have a conversation with him about donated services.
Okay. Yep.
If I had, some parameters or could reach out and try to work with him.
Nate, I think you were planning for 2 inches of closed cell foam over the brick. Was that what we discussed?
That's my understanding. Yep.
And the brick will breathe okay that way? I mean,
Who's the guy that was with you that was the envelope guy?
Yep. Here at the company.
Yes, I can't remember what his name was. Steve something.
Steve Howard. Yep, Steve Howard. Just same as yours, Steve.
All these Steves, with
Yeah,
complicated.
Yeah.
He thought if the advantage of that is if you put the closed cell foam on it, the brick could still breathe on the outside, but it wouldn't breathe to the inside of the building. And that would give us a vapor barrier and
Yeah, give you a vapor barrier where you need it, which is.
Yeah, on the inside. That way the vapor from or the moisture from in the building wouldn't get to the brick. That was his thought. That sounded like a good plan.
Yep.
Is there a concern with moisture from the inside condensing within that wall if it's not a breathable wall? Because then it would condense on the insulation side and could cause potential mold. And I
Yep.
have knowledge in this area, but I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to contradict what this guy, Steve Howard, is saying. I just am.
No, I
Bring it
think, I think there is a minimum thickness R value that you need to prevent that from happening. Because you are correct that if you do say like an inch or half of an inch of foam, you're going to provide some R, but that cold will still conduct because it's touching through. So what you need to do is stop the cold from coming to the inside surface. Because largely what you're doing is creating the air vapor barrier point at the back side of your spray foam. So, and then the idea behind having this hybrid system, and I think UBEC is pushing to this, and I'm not 100% up to date with UBEC and how they change it, but it's a hybrid installation. You have to have, so many on this side of one type, and then a different type on the inside. So this is sort of lending its way into that. So depending upon what future building codes are, or whatever Monmouth adopts in the future, it's compatible.
Yeah.
You do your rough in, you have your spray foam, you have something for a vapor barrier now, insulation, providing room for electrical, mechanical, whatever's going to happen, and then like an R13 or something behind that fiberglass bat in place that provides an extra amount behind that.
Okay. Yeah, the new energy code, I think we're adopting 2021 in April officially. It's supposed to make it easier for existing buildings, especially historic and older buildings, because previously you'd be required a minimum amount for continuous insulation and a minimum amount for cavity insulation. And now there's a line item in there for, in existing buildings, you can substitute the continuous insulation for additional cavity, which helps a lot. So you don't have to reskin all of your existing buildings with rigid insulation.
Yeah, and really spray foam would be the best way to approach that. The way we're doing
Okay.
it. The way it's being proposed is the smartest way forward, because you're not going to take a historical building and put styrofoam on the outside of it,
Yep. No, definitely not. Okay, great. Yeah, if he's confident in that 2 inches, being that prevention of the condensing surface, then that's fine.
Okay.
Nick, did you get any pricing back from Quality Insulation on that?
Yes, that was that figure, the difference, the additional cost straight from them. And I'm just looking at both their quotes, one quote to the next. It almost doubled. The additional amount was $8,955 additional, straight from the insulator. And I believe that included the dense pack in that ceiling of the first floor to the second floor, what we talked about, having that dense pack put in that floor system, and then spray foam on the exterior walls. So that was in addition to what he already had within scope.
But we also have to keep in mind too that this cost is a permanent solution versus the sort of temporary solution. So there is it numerically doubled, but if more permanent insulation would have been installed in the last quote, then you'd still be paying for some more stuff. So I think, it's a better approach, a permanent approach. And I know that Nate was very conscious of, that and keeping, and his guys and subs coming in and being able to do their work without disturbing anything.
So these are the things that I can obviously I can put together, Andrew, and give to you, and you can discuss with them,
Yep.
On a number by number basis. This is just largely just throwing it up in the air, making sure that we're all on the same page with the direction we're moving in. Yeah, I'm moving forward on. I'm going to provide an estimate for what it's going to take to actually reinforce that ceiling. My understanding is we're trying to do something that's very minimal. You know, we want something that's strong, that's gonna be up there and be ready for the next phase. And I can discuss some ideas with you, Andrew, on, and Steve or whoever, you know, on what that's gonna look like. Kind of leading into the next phase of the finishes of the inside.
Yeah, and that's a priority item too, fixing that ceiling. It's very clearly noticeably worse than it was when construction first started. And we don't want that ceiling collapsing. It's over the front half maybe
Yeah.
of the assembly space. But basically the ceiling has disconnected from the joist above and is now the weight of the ceiling, the plaster itself, and the insulation above it is pushing it down. So there's a sag, and eventually that'll give. We want to fix that before it happens.
Yeah, the weight of that ceiling's been spread to the other collar ties, and now that weight is depending on the other two sections. So I have a general attack on how I want to attack it and secure it, put it back up in place. I think Steve probably went over it when we were up there, looking at how it was generally logically going to have to go together. So we get it within our scope of our budget right now. Make sure it's done at the end of this milestone.
Yeah. And Steve and I spoke briefly about it after, as the meeting wrapped up as well, knowing that it's a priority item and that has to be done. We'll have to sort of wish list things, I think, on how we best distribute the remaining funds here. I mean, we would obviously advise, and Nickerson O'Day would advise, and ultimately that decision would be up to the committee. But say we don't put in permanent lighting or something and just keep the temp lighting in, but we save that money and put it towards the structural issues. So that's something that once we have a price on, we can weigh the options.
Yep. One of the things that I've done too, in pulling a little bit higher up in the company here, is doing a cost study, looking at the project scope as a whole, understanding everything that's on the table right now, understanding what the money is available, and then looking at how can we maximize these amounts. As soon as I have these together, Andrew, I can kind of get with you and make sure that we're on the same page.
Perfect.
Just so we know exactly what are left for dollars to make sure that we can commit everything we can commit with the dollars that are there. Make sure we have a good milestone in the road.
Great. Yep. Perfect.
For those of you that weren't able to see that up there, the main bottom quarter of the rafter comes across like this, and then the ceiling comes across and is basically nailed up to that. It's got ceiling joists come across. Well, those nails have failed, and this has fallen down probably 5 to 6 inches. The structural, the 2x that go from rafter to rafter are nailed up under that bottom of that rafter, and they have pulled loose, and they're falling down like this. With the plaster ceiling and the weight of the plaster and the insulation and everything on the ceiling is sagging down.
So how do you fix that?
We're not sure.
You can't put screws in there to screw it back up, or?
What,
That's why we're involved.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we had talked about, was you're probably gonna have to go through from the bottom side and jack it back up. Of course, you've got all those nails sticking up now that are pulled out. You're gonna have to get those nails trimmed out of there.
Okay.
And then you're gonna have to jack it back up into position and then take some big, long lag bolts or screws and attach it back to the rafter. And then hopefully the ceiling, the plaster portion of the ceiling will stay. We're not sure if that will stay, or we may have to end up strapping and re-sheet rocking over that ceiling in the next phase when that happens. But
Should the whole ceiling be reinforced? In other words, if this part failed, will the rest of it fail eventually?
that would probably take more research to figure out what's going on. You know, I don't know if that was caused by water intrusion.
Because that's where that water came in.
Yeah, because there was some leakage happened in there, you know, early on before the roof had got repaired. That might have caused part of the issue or something like that, but, you know, that would take a lot of further research to find out if we needed to do something over the entire ceiling, or it's just that one section. We'd have to look at that further.
But it wouldn't hurt to kind of reinforce the entire ceiling now. would
Oh,
it?
no, it wouldn't. It would be probably a good thing. You know, it just takes time and money.
Yeah,
Right.
but it might be worth it. you know.
Yeah, well, our original plan was to try to save that plaster ceiling
Yeah,
to leave it in place. But I'm afraid we may not be able to do that now, so, if we have to go up there and restructurally attach that, and then maybe strap that with
Right.
more wood with strapping,
Yeah.
and then screw a new sheetrock ceiling over that. If that is what the final outcome turns out to be, we could definitely go down and do some reattaching at the other locations. Each one of those main rafters is about 8 feet apart. So right now you've got a
Yeah.
probably 16-foot section that's still attached over here and sagging down 5-6 inches in the middle. So,
And
It's
and depending
something-
on how that price comes back, I think, it is a good idea to look at what it would cost to do the whole ceiling. Because you've already got the staging there, you've already got the guys there doing that exact same work, rather than having them come back 2-3 years down the road if you need it, kind of thing. So there is somewhat of a benefit of analyzing and doing it all.
To kind of speak to your point, too, Steve, and I know I share a lot of the daily reports and stuff. I think the last time I was there, I took a ridiculous amount of pictures and posted them. And I took some pictures of this particular, what we had looked at before when I was on site talking with the handrail guys. I took some pictures of underneath of that, I think it's a 4x8 or 6x8, like Steve was just talking about. And you can kind of see, I would say it's probably at least 12 inches under where the strapping used to be attached to that lower structural cross tie beam, wall to wall. So generally, as a carpenter, Steve, I'm kind of agreeing with you. And my general thought was to find out and locate where the other tie beams are that run across that assembly area. Take a 2x4 and a structural lag, and then pass between that 2x4 up through the plaster, up through the boarding board strapping, all the way up into that beam, and sort of hold what's there in place before I even begin to try to tackle and suck up what's actually sagged. Because the concern obviously is you go to that bellied section and start lifting on that, and you're going to be sending stress down and changing what's already there.
I agree, yep.
And you might push that and then lose the other side. So sort of leading into what you're talking about of strapping, and I think a 2x4 will be an appropriate size member to be able to take that stress and lift that back up. To kind of go along with what you're saying, I'm just going to nip those nails off, put a 2x4 across underneath that beam, and then suck that whole thing back up in. But before I do that to the ones that are currently attached, and then try to pick that up.
Those are secure.
And that's right. And then if that at that point leads into the next phase of strapping the rest of the ceiling in 2x4s and then drywalling it and having a new ceiling, so be it. That was generally my thought process. That way you're kind of pinching that plaster and that lag all together and then pushing everything up versus just passing a lag through, grabbing that board, and then hoping all those labs and everything follow suit. You know what I'm saying? So I think I told the story to Steve when he was here. When I was a kid, I was like 17, 18 on a big project, Northeast Harbor. And we were gutting an entire building, a historical building down in Northeast Harbor, where it was a building that was built in late 1700s, early 1800s. Owens Corning, actually, that family that owns all that. Anyways, we were stripping the plaster off that, and everyone had taken a break, and they left. And they kept calling me, Nate, come on, hop down. And I had started taking the ceiling down. I thought as a kid, I'll just jump off the stage and grab onto the ceiling and see what happens. And I grabbed onto that plaster, and the whole ceiling and the whole 20-foot room came down all at once. Just, so I've seen it firsthand when it decides to go. And that looked like, and of course, I thought it was funny. No one else thought it was funny. Anyways, I got in trouble a lot, but learned a lot at the same time. So I've seen when these decide to let go and go, they're gonna, it's not pretty. So that's generally my approach and how I was gonna look at it, Andrew, is what do we take to actually hold it up in place? And I can do it at that point, and then say, okay, here's an additional amount if we want to go the whole way right now. You know, so you can kind of see both of those points depending upon how the money comes in. We know we have to get to this point. If we want to go further, you know what I'm saying? Here's that amount, because it seems logical. if that seems logical.
Yeah, that ceiling would definitely have to be repaired before you could do any insulation work or anything up there, because
Absolutely.
all it would take is one step in the wrong place and the whole thing would come down.
Yep. So, that's my general trajectory right now, just so, Andrew, you're prepared when you start seeing stuff, you're aware of what you're looking at and stuff, and you guys at least are aware of the directory I'm heading in right now with it, so.
Yeah.
Are you working on, getting a cost estimate to do that portion of work, Nick?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was just curious if you proceeded with any of that or how far you'd gotten.
No, I don't have it in front of me. I don't have it in
Okay.
front of me. I do know it's something that we need to do. And I'm hoping to do this work. I want to get something in front of you guys looked at. I want to put this together with a full cost study on where, requisitions every month. We have a TNM rec. Like I said, I pulled the executive VP of the company in just to make sure that we land this thing correctly. We call it, not nose coning. We don't want to overshoot the runway. We don't want to crash the runway. We want to bring that plane right down perfect and land at the budget, what our target is. So in order to achieve that, I bought a little bit of extra horsepower just to help us gather this whole thing together, make sure we end up well at the end of it and get the most out of what's been raised so far. And then, get a good milestone for us. So I'm working on some change order costs for the insulation amount that we talked about. I'm going to look in that ladder, so the Granger ladder, something that we can actually bolt to the attic. I'm going to be looking at repairing the ceiling work here. I think it's pretty much where we're going to take it. I don't think we're going to get any further into the insulation in the attic and any of that kind of work. I think we're going to get to that point and see where we land, getting those points that need to be hit.
Yeah.
So.
Andrew, would you guys want to, obviously you guys want to approve the plan of attack that he comes up with for that ceiling repair?
Yeah, I mean,
Is
we'll
that
take
something you guys want to look at, or I don't know if we need to have a structural engineer look at it, or can we just fly by the seat of our pants?
Yeah, we could. I mean, it generally wouldn't be like a submittal process type thing, but we're happy to look at it. We can forward it along to the structural engineer to look at it, although without him coming up and physically observing what's happening there, he probably wouldn't want to touch it. And I don't know if we'd want to pay for him to do that.
Well, I agree. I just,
Yeah.
The money is tight, so we can't really afford to do that kind of stuff. I just thought maybe you and Paul would like to just put eyes on the plan before we implement something.
Yep, we will absolutely do that. I think as far as, any sort of official modes of approval, it wouldn't really be necessary, but we're happy to work with.
More heads are better than one. Mine's
Exactly.
Not the one.
Yep. We're more than happy to work with Nate and his team on that.
And who knows, it might just lead into a whole demo of the ceiling. You never know. Just lead it into that whole final project.
You can't jump off the staging on this one though. It's like 16 feet up.
Yeah, I've got it. I have a hard time just topping out of the truck now, but.
If I do some preliminary asking around about the insulation contractor that's local, should I give him your contact, Nate, to find out the scope of, because obviously he knows the building, he went to school there, but to figure out the scope and what you're looking for?
Yeah, no, I can provide him a scope. I would say as long as it's, he be kept in the dark a little bit initially, just so he can look at it and provide a price and kind of to see what he comes up with.
Yeah.
I'm a little leery of having someone spend the time to come up and work and give a quote and then give the quote to someone else. Be like, man, if you beat this, you got it. But absolutely, I can provide him a scope. I can go and meet him on site.
For us, if they do spray and insulation and can donate their services or part of their service, then I would rather do that, and hopefully the other people will understand that we're looking out for.
Absolutely. No, that makes total sense. It makes total sense to me, and I can provide him a whole scope of what he needs to do and what he's looking at. However that That makes sense.
Okay,
That makes
all right.
sense. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll start putting out my feelers.
Yep. And I get, yeah, hand my number out to anybody at this point. All the calls and different things we're getting, it's crazy.
Yeah. Lori, don't you agree that's worth an ask?
Definitely.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
between
yeah.
you and I will get the contact and get the information.
You know, even if he just does it at cost,
Yes,
you know, the
the
supply,
materials, yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
would be nice. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yep, I can talk to him about what, you know, what he does or what if he's doing spray foam or the dense pack or the fiberglass or whatever he's willing to donate for time.
Yes.
I'll willing to take it. And then once I know what his scope is, whatever he's not gonna pick up from quality insulation, you know, like
Yeah.
whatever, it can be revised and looked at again. So,
Exactly, all right, okay, thank you.
While we're on the subject of
Brandon,
just
right.
approvals and or submittal type things, did
Mm-hmm.
the handrail subs say anything about they would submit additional shop drawings for the inside corners or anything like that? That we'll obviously want to take a look at and make sure the
yes.
angle's right this time.
And I did, and of course, I now want record of being recorded, but we had one of them, absolutely, you know, absolutely. We'd have to have something to go, a metric.
Yeah, yeah.
Something to go at off of, yeah. But when I looked up, yeah, when you take it from the outside to move inside, what happens is those columns aren't parallel with the building or the deck or the stairs. Nothing there is parallel. The stairs are parallel with the building, but the columns aren't. So when you go to move the handrails, you can't just take one handrail and move it down back and forth because there's a particular angle of progression and digression that happens right there. So generally speaking, it's about from column to column, you're going to be losing like 2.5 inches or something like that. But we definitely will want to look at that for sure, and make sure the angle's correct and that kind of stuff. The original one, the shop drawing did work. They just didn't build their shop drawing. So
Always something.
yeah, so I got the noose that they gave me I can hang them with. So yeah. No, they were good for it. I held it up, and like, no, it's all matches, it's good. And then I held it up, and he's like, oh, I'm like, okay, we're in agreement then.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Okay, that it for our status update?
That's all I got, and all these papers here in front of me. I don't know if I have anything to talk about, so.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, I'll be in touch very soon with you, Andrew.
All right.
Yes, great. Thank you, Nate.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Nate.
thanks, Nate.
Have a good night.
What's the status on the tree removal?
So I received a very generous quote from Spencer Richardson. And, oh, good. I was bad. So he gave us a quote of $1,500 to remove the pines.
Geez, that is pretty.
Of course,
reasonable.
the town
Yeah.
would be doing the cleanup. We'd have work with Tony and the town crew to do the cleanup. So that was the question about, when I got this, I didn't know where we wanted to go with this, whether this was something, obviously, we've got some fish to fry still with the ceiling and things, but whether we wanted to tell Spencer yes and carry this ourselves. And then obviously it's a coordination thing between Spencer and the town crew, or whether Spencer could drop them and leave them there. And then Tony's crew could work at cleaning it up as it happens, and whether or not he wants the logs or not. If he doesn't want the logs, I could reach out to Lee and Karen and say, Lee, are you interested in these? The one thing Spencer did say is that chain link fence, we either have to roll it back out of the way, or the trees are probably gonna hit it. So that's something that we'll have to figure out, I figured between Steve, Steve, Jeff and I, hopefully being able to pull out that top thing on the chain link fence and then hopefully roll the fencing material out of the way. And Spencer said, yeah, if we get the chain link part out of the way, hopefully we won't hit any of the posts, but that's, that's the, you know, and whether or not, how that'll go, if that bottom is grown into the ground of the chain link fence, I don't know. Right.
Chris, how
There
many
it
trees,
is.
how many trees did he say he'd do for that?
He didn't give me a specific number, but he came out up and looked and he knew it was pretty much, on the back ones and any ones that are on the, left-hand side that could actually reach the building. I said, anything that can reach the building will need to go, so.
That is a good price then for him to drop them.
Exactly.
That is a very reasonable price.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
it was very reasonable, and plus,
Yeah.
he's just such a good kid anyway, he really is. He was one of the recipients of my father's scholarship, so I got to know him through that, and he came to our lobster bake, and he just is, he's funny, whenever you see him, he's just smiling and happy, and
For such a reasonable price, you think the select board would pay for that? Town expense?
So this is just to drop the trees down and leave them, and then the town crew is gonna,
do all the cleanup
All the
work,
cleanup
because
and
that's
everything like
the expensive part, really, anyway, is
that's the time consuming
the
part.
time consuming and cleanup part, so that's where, you know, I don't like to ask for anything anymore, just because, you know, I already felt it the other day when we were talking about putting in this cost center for, the 1856 Academy to carry the electricity, heat and insulation. It was, you know, under $9,000, I mean, under $10,000, but we didn't have the insurance in there yet because we don't have a number. And, you know, one of the people on the Zoom meeting was already saying, are these all gonna be listed separately on the warrant? So if I want one thing but not the other, because we were talking about rec and we were talking about public works and we were talking about Cumston and the library, and everything has its own cost center, but it has its own article on the warrant as well. So, you know, I've already got people, I'm already afraid that somebody's gonna say, yeah, I would love to say, can we put $1,500 in there to get these trees removed? But I'm already gonna be
Yeah, no, I hear you.
asking Public Works in there, but I am scared to death after what happened last year. So my plan is, when I put together the article for the Monmouth Messenger that, you know, Dennis is putting together, I'm going to put information in there that, you know, this money is only to preserve the building that we've already invested
Yep.
over $2 million in. So this is money just to preserve it. I'm going to write it in the best way I know how, and
That's what I was thinking. We cover this. What is being done by the town is the bulk.
oh yeah, really the bulk of it. So it'll be a big coordination. I mean, obviously, it's not a wintertime, it is a wintertime job, but I can't say, Tony, take your guys away from doing the sidewalks and the roads to move the tree stuff. So it'll be quite a coordination. So I told Spencer we were having a meeting tonight and that we'd get back to him. So it's up to you folks, how you want to do.
I would move that we go ahead with this. Because it's a very reasonable price. You'll never get it done that, you know, reasonably.
Yeah.
And if the town's willing to do it and.
Yeah.
And I would think the chain link fence, I mean, if we had a truck or a tractor, you could probably just pull it out, couldn't you, from if it's in the ground?
Hopefully,
Yeah,
hopefully, what,
and
I'm sure the grass has grown up in it and
Yeah.
stuff quite
Yeah,
bad,
but
but
I mean, if you had some kind of a vehicle that you could just pull it, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah.
it should come right up.
And, you know, obviously, again, that's another thing that with winter, if we're gonna get a foot of snow, moving it is
Yeah.
gonna be probably something we'll have to wait till spring and then the ground harden up, and work with Spencer on that. And of course, summer time is a little easier for Public Works to plan these kinds of things because we can't plan around snowstorm.
Mhm.
No,
Sorry.
but getting the trees down would be a big help.
Yes, yes. I mean, to protect the building.
Yeah.
And make sure that we're not having any issues. Because we were lucky last year when that branch came down that it missed the brand new roof and windows,
Jeez.
so.
Okay, so, we have a motion.
I move that we accept the bid of $1,500 to remove the troublesome trees.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Do I have to verbally say aye?
No, I won't make you do that, but.
Okay.
So I'll reach back out to him, but I'll let him know that it's a coordination thing that we'll have to coordinate with the town crew and also work around plowing. I don't know why I'm yawning so much, but I am. I can't stop now. Okay.
Next thing I have under invoices is paid in bill is the most recent. They're one whole package.
Oh, that's the whole packet.
Oh, yeah, there's,
Sorry.
yeah, right, there's three.
So we've got,
Two or three?
I think there's four.
Four.
176,
Yeah.
171, 168, and 215.
So it looks like they're coming like weekly.
Yes.
Is what I can tell.
Yes. Last month it was like $438. We had
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 invoices, and this month it's $731.37. So,
I keep praying for it to be warmer.
yeah.
That'd be a lot.
Somebody should have taken out that, look at Tony Phil.
Yeah.
That's the smoking price for propane. I wish
Yeah.
I could buy
It's a
propane.
negotiated, yeah, that negotiated.
There is something to be said for that, isn't
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, but big swing like both my tank. At that price, I'd love it.
Swing down there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah, the total for this, for December,
Make a motion that we pay Fabian.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
I.
Much. Everybody? Thank you. And next 2 invoices, one is for we've got all time, 3. Here's 2 there. Thank you. Oh, that's right. Okay, for call design services for this month. Last month they gave us a bill for $230, basically for the little bit that was done in December, and it was dated January 1. This is dated January 2 to January 31st. And it's basically, professional designer, $805. Construction administration, $805, well, a little bit, $805, and then other items, Trillium is $600. These are engineering work that was done. For the total that they billed us is $1,405. Do you have a motion?
Make a motion that we pay all the time.
Well, yeah. I would-
Was that-
second that.
Hang on,
What's that?
Don, was that for last month? Cause Trillium hasn't done anything since. I don't think Eric would have given us a bill for anything. He
Yeah,
hasn't been,
Well,
Go
this is
ahead.
from, January 2nd. dated it January 2nd to January 31st, and there is under other items, engineering trillium 600 for this, for during that time.
Okay, I wouldn't accept this one because Eric didn't do anything during the month of January. He hasn't touched it since he talked to the insurance guy about the report and everything. That was, I think, November when we.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll talk to Jacob tomorrow and have him send you an
Okay, and
updated one.
have him reissue it, and then I can send it out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
he might have missed that last month's because it would have been. We didn't have a meeting in December. That's right. So January's. Okay, hang on. Well, let me verify with him how he did it. And I'll
Okay.
get back to you tomorrow because
Yeah.
if Eric Doobie from Trillium had done work in November for speaking to the insurance guy about the
Yeah.
structural report and all of that, then we would have billed in December, but there wasn't a meeting in December. So did you guys
Right.
get a December bill?
We didn't. We got one dated January 1, and it was for 203 or 230 somewhere. It was a very
Small one.
very small one. So maybe Trillium
There's-
hadn't given their invoice yet.
It might be that. Okay. I don't want to screw things up because obviously you guys have to have a quorum on paying the bill. But
But that's okay. We can take care of it tomorrow. I can send it out tomorrow if you want, just want
Okay,
to follow
yep,
up to make
yep.
sure.
I'll follow up with him, make sure that's where it's from.
Okay, yep, that's fine. So we'll hold on that one. And then, Nickerson and O'Day. So this bill is for December. It's for $8,706.03. We have labor costs for carpenter and superintendent. We have materials, and lumber, Lowe's, et cetera, for $1,400. Lead coated copper for the dome,
Mhm.
5,000. And then, looks like there was some small tools and whatnot. So the total on that, plus the 4.9% fee, total of 87,0603. That leaves their budget, what's left in Nixon O'Day's budget. Balance to finish 143,984. So that's what it shows on the requisition after December invoice, which is what this is they show 143,984.85 in their budget. That's what we have left for next no date to accomplish what it's been talking about.
The bell. Bell tower and
Yeah,
Again, motion,
yes, please.
motion, we pay that bill.
Okay.
well, I will second that.
All right, all in favor? Thank you, ma'am. Everybody? The other thing I was working on this last little bit is, trying to get this builder's risk insurance taken care of and we've gone from one application to another application. Now they're thinking about a different, because the folks, from what I understand, folks that they're getting the quote, that they've got a quote from, it's not full coverage for the building. It would be just for the 150,000 that's left to do. It would cost 1,800 for the $150,000 worth of builder's risk coverage, covering new construction only. So what's been done is not part of this. It's not part of the plan, which makes sense because
Already been
it's
done.
already been done. But they did send out a note. There's a few more questions that need to be asked. I just wanted to make sure that we have all the exterior renovations having been done. And the only thing that I know that needs to be that's left is the bell tower.
In the handrails.
And the
obviously,
handrails.
that's- Yeah, I think that's all that's left, isn't there, outside?
There is, depending on how the installation quote and installation goes, we have had talks of ventilation on that, and so they may have to do additional work on the ridge vent. Apparently, when they did the roof, they put the ridge vent on, but they didn't cut the sheathing underneath, so there is no
There's no
ridge vent
vent.
up there, so they'd have to take up the vent or the ridge vent from the exterior. However they would do it, cut that and create the air flow through.
Okay,
So there may be
right.
some additional work.
Okay,
I think, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, they had suggested, the installation guy had suggested basically sealing from the top of the wall to under the rafters of the roof. There's an air gap right now. It's basically just open to the outside. He was saying to seal all of that with dense pack cellulose, and then that would create a positive airflow up to the ridge vent if it's installed. If it's not installed, what we would have to do is have the positive airflow go out. Nate had recommended the bell tower. If we cut a vent in the bell tower, then it would go up through the vent in the bell tower. So there's a couple things in play. Potentially a roofing sub would have to come back and cut that vent in or not, depending on how the quote falls.
okay. All right, so I'll let them know that those are the three things that we,
Yeah, bell tower, handrails, and potential roof adjustments. I wouldn't say the roof needs to be redone, but small
no,
roof.
Potentially a soffit, correct?
Yeah, finally or something.
what, I'm wondering if they will ask me if we have an idea of what the set aside would be for that. For money wise.
That would be something that Nate would put together because his company did the roof the previous time, so he would have his guys come in and do
Okay.
that, so he could.
All right, so I'll send a note out to Nate. Okay. All right. And we have heat in there, although it's not permanent, and of course, there's no water run to the building at this point. Okay. All right, so, I'll send that out to them. I hadn't intended to print these out, but I did anyways. For some reason, that's what they've come up with. For, what the $1,800, cost would be for this, just for your information.
From what her email, she seems to think that there's plenty of other options available, so they will find something to
Oh, yeah.
get us
This
the
is-
right coverage.
Yeah, that's what she's
So-
trying to do, is get us the right coverage for the best prices she can.
Yeah.
All my papers here. The budget. At this point, we've paid to date $1,616,360.83. So it shows, but this shows there's 152 left for next snow day, so I'm gonna have to balance this to the requisition, which I'll be happy to do, but the requisition shows 143. It's left in there for billables for them. That's all I have for updates and how's fundraising, et cetera, going. I hear you sent out some stuff.
I have $160,000 out in grant requests. We still haven't heard. Supposed to hear next month on the event one,
Okay,
which is 50,000. Just over 200,000. 100,000 from Libra, 50,000 Stephen King, which won't come until March,
Okay, so that's,
and then 10,000 from which they're building program. I've got several more from that group I can apply to. I go back at the banks, in Bangor, and Muscogin, see if I can.
Yeah.
And back. They didn't fund us last year, so maybe they'll fund us this year.
this year. That's awesome.
I talked to Ryan today at the legislature and he said the $10 million bond bill will be about 2 weeks before they have a hearing on that. Then we could get there and make sure that it's not just restricted to buildings on the National Register. That would be a potentially real plus. We'd have to come up with a 25% match.
Could you just let me know?
I will. He said he would let me know. But it's gonna be at least 2 weeks, he said, before it comes up.
Go
And,
yell at them.
yeah, and Mary Beth Paquette is writing a, community challenge grant, for us. I don't have a dollar amount. Do you remember the dollar amount?
I don't. She's
Um,
gone for 3 weeks.
Yeah, so I was emailing with her today about that. So I know she's working on that community challenge grant with Age Friendly. So she's doing one for the Packard Activity Center too, for their elevator. But she's doing one for us as well.
That's,
The
So,
one is through the AARP for the.
yes, yeah. So hopefully, well, she's doing that and hopefully
That
we'll
would be
see the
awesome.
benefits of that too.
She's a good grant writer.
Yeah,
She's very
yeah,
good.
so hopefully, so that's in the works as well. Yeah. The other thing that is going on is Rudy Johnson is compiling a new book of graduates of Monmouth Academy, newer graduates as opposed to the ones that we all know from history. And my sister Darlene is doing the editing for him and kind of putting it together since he's not, a word processing whiz. And his question to me last week was that they're looking for somebody that would donate printing of it. So if anybody knows anybody that does printing, that would be able to print the book. I can get that, pass the information along, but Rudy was asking me about how we would handle this, and I would assume we'd handle it like we did the throws, that they would be, our domain, and we would have them that if people wanted to buy them, we'd have them to sell.
right.
As opposed to, he was asking me different things about how we wanted to go about it, but I think it would make sense like the throw. We had
Yeah.
to kind of commit to so many throws and we have the throws that we can
Right.
sell and make money from. So I think that it would probably be the same thing that we do for these books as well, that they'd be printed and available for sale with the money coming to us, that type of thing.
Is Linda Johnston, she does something called Monmouth Press. And I don't know,
I don't know if she does printing
actually.
or not. Does she print? I don't know. I thought that she typeset, but I didn't know
I
that
think
she.
you're right, because we'd asked her once at the museum to do a book for us and she referred us to someone else.
Somebody else, yeah. to print,
Yeah, I think she does, just like you said,
Typeset.
but sets it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, so that's, happening. I've got to write him something to put in there about the timeline of the project or when voted the original money and when we tore down the, old section, the 1950s section in school. I'm just gonna put a timeline of the
Right,
dates there. I won't put the discouraging timeline of town denied additional funding. So
Leave that out.
I might leave that out.
He's done a remarkable job though, and he's even found some older,
Yes,
from earlier
Really?
graduates that
Exactly.
have done remarkable things.
Yeah. Yeah, he's found some more information, so he's putting that together, and I haven't seen it. Darlene's been working on it, but I haven't seen it, and but he and I talked about it last week, and so I'll let him know that, you know, once we get it printed, wherever we have the books stored, then, you know, people be able to purchase them. And when I do the Monmouth Messenger article, I'm gonna, like I said, put information in there about the throws that are
Right.
available.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will reach some more people about that. But I'll also put information in there telling them that you will see a warrant article for the 1856 Academy, but it's not for construction, it's to maintain the investment we've already made.
Yeah, that's
So,
as it should be said, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it has been quite an investment.
yeah, cause it's silly. I can't imagine that.
The amount isn't enough to shock people like the other, you know, I mean,
Chris,
Well, you never know.
You never can tell.
Chris, perhaps a better word is to protect what we have
Protect, yes, yes.
already
Yeah.
invested.
Before I will, whatever I write, I will send out to everybody for
Commentary.
critique and commentary and all of that, so. Yeah. I'm writing down notes to myself because I've got to sit down and write that, and it's one of those things I have to be, gotta, you know. Like back in school, be in the right frame of mind to
Exactly.
do some creative writing, but Dennis's cutoff for that isn't until March, but I'm gonna start working on it now so we all can put our eyes on it and talk about that. We're gonna be putting the bell tower up, and we'll have, you know, an event and let people know that when that happens in the spring and that
That's
type of
gonna be
thing, so.
nice.
So, but that's where I am with that. I think Steve and I both feel very discouraged at times.
And just, it's a
More
computer,
time.
just keep
Yeah.
looking for, it says I get a grant. For it on a regular basis,
Yeah.
Grant Watch it's called.
Yeah.
There's more there for Maine, specifically for Maine. Depends on the topic, but this year I have to
Yeah.
sit down and start writing for some of those now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah. It's just a constant looking, I mean, because I didn't have that report and I didn't know where to look, so thank goodness you volunteered to help, because that was the hardest part. I just didn't.
finding them, yeah.
Finding them, and I didn't know where to look. I mean, I had the obvious ones, but there's so many other little things
Well,
around.
there's also corporate stuff I haven't started yet. People from Monmouth work in different, some of them really good sized companies. Lumber and Lewiston, and I need to target them. Donations.
Yeah,
For their employees.
yeah. And I know we'll have a little bit coming in because Noella Alden Safford passed away, and I think Lori and my mother, my family wanted to donate, not to the church, but to the school, because her family was, she loved the school.
Oh,
She
yeah.
graduated with my dad, and, you know, it was a big part of her life. So,
Okay.
so there will be some, and I think, we'll write something, you know, from us to the family that money was donated in her name, like when Bruce Gray passed away, that, you know, that type of thing. And we'll figure out where, I mean, obviously, when we do the plaques, when we do reach completion, which we will.
Yes, we will.
Her name will
Don't
be
tell her I want it.
somewhere in her memory, so we'll have that for her, so. We will get there.
All right. Anything else for select board or anything?
I can't think of anything else. Do you have any?
So we can set the times, agenda items for our next meeting. Let's see, what are the
10th is the second Monday. And the select board meeting would be on the 19th, so.
So yeah, let's want to do the 10th again.
Yeah, I'll double check with town calendar too. Double check, I'm sure. So, next. Don't see anything on the tenth of March, so.
Okay, so
March
the 10th, March 10th, Monday, the next meeting.
That's clear for me. I will.
That's good for you
Thank
too,
you.
Andrew.
Well, thank you. And as there's no public, assuming there's no comment,
Well, there was somebody on there for a while, but I don't know if he left.
and we have a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Good to see you, Andrew.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Bye, Lori.
Andrew. Bye, Lori. I
Take care.
feel better.
Feel better quick.
10 minutes.
Yes.
Back in 10 minutes, okay? Granddaughter,
Oh.
yeah. You better believe it, Steve. I always take them.
Absolutely.